Чудово. Дуже дякую. Перш за все, дуже дякую за можливість. І також, якщо пане Роман, подайте слідчий слайд номер 2. Мушу дуже подякувати нашим колегам з Києва, з Львова, з Донбасу, з Вінниці, із Івано-Франківськ і других міст, які зібралися з нами в Львові завдяки міста Львова і Львів Бізнес School. Мушу також дуже подякувати пану Василем Матішевським і Михайлу Доманським, і також Тим Олександрович, що так нам поміг в тім курсі. Я дуже приємно був заскочений, що ми могли так дуже пильно і точно проводити час. Ну, від цієї хвилини буду говорити по-англійськи. Слідчий слайд, прошу. So, what is a city? Now, this is just an opinion, but if you look in the history, you'll see it's usually a large and permanent settlement. Most cities, large cities, have been in existence for at least 1,000 years, and some, like Alexandria or Cairo, many thousands. It's a complex organism that most of us really don't have a very good idea of how it works. We just are participants in it. And there are many rules of which we're not really aware of. And those rules can be used in many ways to affect your and my quality of life. So if you look at some of the cities today, at the extremes, places like Shanghai, that probably has the largest population in the world. You look at Calcutta, or Kolkata as it's called now, it's one of the densest cities. So actually is London and New York. And then you could look at Tahalhuk, which is really a city which is very strange because it didn't seem to have any business center. It was just a collection of settlements. So what is this city? It's really a place where people assemble and they get services for their meeting. Next slide, please. Now, if many of you have heard of this chap Maslow, he had a sort of hierarchy of needs. You can translate this hierarchy into what cities really need. So if you don't have safety and security, really it's very difficult to have a city of any kind other than one that's very erratic, where the services don't work and where you live in a state of fear. Once you have dealt with safety and security, you can start thinking about the services, the environment, the infrastructure that you need. Once you have that, you can build businesses, you can have comfort, you can go to arts, you can go to restaurants, and the quality of life improves. So as much as this seems like a very simple hierarchy, it's kind of vital to have all three layers to make a city work. So in IBM, what we did was we looked at cities from an analytical point of view. To make it simple for ourselves, we divided it into 3 different sections. On the left, in the green box, there are the assets, the roads, the bridges, the wires, the pipes. And all the time, the mathematical analysis is how much do you need to repair? How much resources do you have to repair it? What sequence do you repair it in? And what is the outcome? On the other side, you have the material that flows through the city. You have the energy that flows through the wires. You have the traffic that flows through the roads. You have the water that flows through the pipes, which quite often, as we know, in most of Ukrainian cities, and actually in many Western cities that are industrial, much of the water evaporates or actually disappears for many reasons. For example, it's not unusual in a large industrial city to find over 20 or 30% of the water is unaccounted for. And then in the end, you have people. If you don't have people, you don't have a city. Yet those people make decisions that determine exactly how your city works. Sometimes the city government decides how the city is going to work. And there's tension between what people need and what the city government gives them. And we'll talk a bit about that later. So the mathematical construct that we use in the top right in the resource optimization is how much resource do I have? For example, how much energy do I have? And how much demand do I have? Can I make the amount of resource match exactly the demand so that I don't waste any? And for example, there are companies in Western Europe that buy time. So what they will do is they will go to an energy company and say, when do you need to reduce the loads? They find out, for example, they need to reduce loads in the summer. So they go to the schools and say, okay, Paraszczak, Here's $35,000. If you promise to reduce the energy in these periods of times when we ask you, we'll keep paying you. So there's many ways in which people try to match the demand to the supply. But the best way is to know how people behave. And so you don't need intermediary groups like Enernog. You can do it directly. Next slide, please. So let's look at the layers of city information. From the top, we have the sensors. We take the data from those sensors. We analyze that data, and we'll show you what we can do with that. From the analysis, you can build predictive models. And from those predictive models, you can manage the city. So, for example, if I know where all the traffic is going during the day, I can then build a pattern that predicts what will happen if I change the road capacity in a certain area. For example, if I change the blocking in the road. At the same time, what I can do is I can look at where the traffic is going and decide how to route my public transportation. So you can see that the whole idea in the Internet of Things is get me the data, but it's the analysis and most importantly the prediction that makes the most sense to cities. Next slide, please. Now, I have to say, I was really pleasantly surprised about how advanced in many ways some Ukrainian cities are. Many cities around the world really, as I'll show you, are in what we call stage 1. There are some cities in Ukraine actually that are beyond that stage, which is quite surprising, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about that. So what does a smart city do? Well, first of all, it gathers data about what's going on. Not only about the operations, for example, traffic, for example, water delivery, but also it plans, it knows what it needs in the future, and it gives that information to people who need it, and it makes that information transparent and public. The other thing that was really surprising to me was what a large variation of service levels there are in Ukrainian cities, and actually all cities around the world. So the processes that engage citizens should be clear, transparent, and convenient. For example, if I need to buy a license for a dog, why do I need to spend 10 hours in a line? If I need a permit for a new building, why do I need to take 3 years, such as it takes in New York, to get a large building permit qualified, whereas in Singapore you can do it in an afternoon? Why does it take so long to get a passport? Why does the government not behave like a commercial enterprise that says, okay, you want this, sign here, go through the process? For example, in some cities, I understand that you, as the citizen, have to prove to the police that you don't have a criminal record. This is almost like living in the land of Kafka in his castle. It's crazy. So a city needs to have processes that make it easy for its citizens to behave properly. Otherwise, you get what you pay for. You have crazy processes, you have a crazy response. Then the other thing is the data that you get from the city needs to be used to predict what will happen. I would want to be able to say, okay, today I have a festival in Kiev. I know the weather is going to be very hot. I know that the traffic is coming in from this area. I know that the flights are coming in from around the world. I need to manage my traffic in a certain way. I need to manage my energy in a certain way. I need to put my police in a certain place. And what happens if the weather suddenly changes? I need to have a model that says this is the outcome. Ultimately, in a smart city, the quality of life is excellent. Now, these are very abstract words, right? But to all of us, quality of life may mean something different. But quality of life means, on average, making it easy to live, making it pleasant to live, making it not stressful to live. Why, for example, in so many places in Ukraine or India, you get on a bus and you can hardly breathe on the bus? Why is the transportation so bad? Well, I know there's many answers to that. I'm just making a rhetorical question. If you make the services for your citizens amenable, you're going to find that the whole tenor of the city works in a different way. Next slide, please. So on slide 8, we're going to talk about the evolution of going to a smart city. Cities then start with a plan. The plan often has many different groups that contribute to the plan, and somebody at the top has to decide how to put it together. At the next stage, cities gather the data, make it transparent and available, and they improve their business processes so that the citizen doesn't have a hard time dealing with the bureaucracy. The bureaucracy is there to deal for the citizen. The citizen doesn't have to operate the bureaucracy. And then cities, stage 3, they integrate their business processes, for example, permits, licenses, and so on, with the effects of what's going on in the infrastructure. So not only do they know what the business processes are, you can get a license, you can get a permit, you can get a dog license, you can have a restaurant license, but you can also use that information to decide which parts of the city do I need to improve first. What is the effect of not having a waste disposal system that's working on the city? They gather the patterns, and then from those patterns at stage 4, they know how all the pieces of the city work, and they can say what happens if. So the next slide is really an example from the view. This is the IT and business plan, for a sort of stage 1 that the view has. That's page 9. Page 10. Also in the view, they have the City Institute, Institut Mister, which is really gathering the data from many different parts of the city. And here we're beginning to see this evolution from we're just one plan from one division to we're looking at this in a more holistic way. And the next stage, for example, and I have to say I was very impressed with Vinnytsia. Vinnytsia has really taken this whole idea of electronic services, government services, to heart. And it's making it available to its citizens. In fact, the citizens are now beginning to expect it. So you can see this list, for example, and thank you, Katerina Babina, who sent me this. Then could we go, please, to the next slide, Romko, on DC Water Authority. Could you click that, please, and run the video? Tam всі сплять вже.
This is actually a critical moment for water infrastructure in the United States of America. In Washington, D.C., the average age of a water main is 77 years. It was put in generations ago. We have sewer lines and water lines that were put in before the Civil War. And the infrastructure has been aging ever since. We got a failing system, we have ever more stringent requirements, and we have a customer base that's not used to thinking about what we do unless it's a problem because there's been a break of some sort. There is more work to be done in our system than we can ever get to in the next 50 years. The only way that we see making it through those challenges is if we can demonstrate to the people we serve that every dollar that we gain from them is being efficiently and effectively used so that every dollar is going farther. We have got to have the best available information. We've got to use it up front. As of 5 years ago, we didn't know what kind of fire hydrants, what condition they were in, what order they were being maintained in. We respond to water main breaks when they happen. We respond to customer service complaints when they happen. It's all a responsive mechanism. It's almost the way policing used to be, which is you judge yourself by how fast you respond to the problem rather than anticipating what the problems are and trying to head them off ahead of time. Now it's instantaneous. What we're doing at DC Water in connection with IBM is really fundamental. We're collecting information and then using the information to make better decisions about how those assets are deployed or managed and operated. You collect those together in an analytical framework, then all of a sudden you start seeing where it's most likely a water main break is going to occur, and we can go out and get it ahead of time. We're now using analytical to make sure we get the worst pipes first that are most likely to cause a problem. That means collecting information about soil type, age of pipe, how often there's been breaks, what are the pressure issues in the city. Every single hydrant in the city has been cataloged. We've put that same GIS-based data model in all the fire trucks. Because we've been able to optimize truck routes in places where they're doing similar work or anticipated work using this information we're collecting, we've saved 20% on fuel costs. And we've saved over $1 million because we only roll to the places where we know there's a problem, which we are alerted to in advance. We have often found, responded, and fixed a problem before the customer even knows happened. That's been a 100% improvement over our response rate to the problems we have to our customers in the city. And these analytics are allowing us not only to know how we can do it, to prove that we are doing it. But you end up with an upward cycle which can only deliver better service and actually make it an incredibly fun place to work. We've been able to do more with less and do that on behalf of every home, every business, every visitor. Everyone in Washington, D.C. relies on the services that we deliver.
Так, ми далі йдемо, маємо слайди ваші на екрані.
Добре, на слайд. So, basically what you see here is the use of machine learning statistical models helps one understand what events happen in this water system, just like Lviw's Vodokanal. And you can start making decisions how to apply resources to fix things. So I'm going to ask you just one more, which is very short. City in motion in the second one. Can you see that?
Зараз хвильку.
Yep.
Да.
Istanbul, Turkey, is one of the world's largest cities and continues to experience a rapid growth in population. The city's population on the Asian side of the city is expected to double to 9 million people by 2025. To help address the massive increase in demand for public transport, the city is investing in new rail infrastructure. IBM is working in partnership with Istanbul Ulasim, the city's transportation authority, and Vodafone to build an understanding of where public transportation is required using the privacy-protected data collected from mobile phones. The first-of-a-kind project uses IBM research innovations to map billions of pieces of data collected from millions of mobile phone users each week. This big data delivers rich geospatial information in real time that reveals how people move through the city. Insights are then extracted from the data to show a heat map of the density of people during peak commuter periods. IBM is using this information to scientifically model bus routes that connect to the city's new rail line. Managing the different transport systems, road, rail, and buses as one system of systems allows for the optimization of all and improves the user experience.
Окей, повертаємо слайди.
These projects was to gather data. In the first project, this allowed the city of Washington, D.C. to predict where the problems would be and to assign resources to repair them. In the second case, where we gathered billions of data points of cell phones moving across Istanbul, the objective was to use that and use machine learning to understand what would be the best route to develop for public transportation. So those are things, just two examples of kind of the stage 3 kind of work. So, Romko, would you please go on to slide 13? I think we're going to have to go through this very quickly. I basically would like to get to slide 14. If you don't mind, go through all there's a build. So you have all 3 columns. Good. Done. Okay, got it. So what you can see on the left side is the different systems that were in Cambridge, Ontario. Roads, drainage, water, sewage. And in the middle, there's only so much funding. And so from that funding, you have to decide which projects. So if you go to the next slide and go through all that build until it finishes on page 50. Right. What you can see is, on the left side, a lot of data from the public, assessments of the condition. And in the next column, you can see what the road needs, what the water needs. You build a map of the whole city, and you look to see what areas need which amount of repair. Once you do that, you do an optimization that helps you decide how much to repair in what location. So if you go to the next slide, you see kind of the heat map, in this case, for roads. This is all built on some IBM software, I think, called Intelligent Operations Center. And so if you look at page 17, there's another aspect of this. The percentage of available serviceable life. So look at this. The blue one is the road. This is how much of the road is used over a period of time. You can see the pink one is how much of the trottoir or the sidewalk is used. Or the green one, looking at the storm drains. It takes longer for a storm drain to dry than for a road. So what you would like to do is find ways on the next slide to arrange it so that you change everything in one place at once. So in the end, the analysis using a lot of statistical optimization was, here's the budget, here is the state of the city. What do you want to fix? If you fix this, then it will cause a delay here. This is how much more life you've got left. And so the city of Cambridge is now using this tool to plan exactly how to work. So if you look at the second bullet on page 18, one of the critical system issues is that people need to understand how the pieces work. Unfortunately, today, there's not many systems that allow different departments to share data. I'm going to ask you to go to slide 21. This is a weather prediction system that we built at IBM called Deep Thunder. If you look at the right side, so slide 21 should show match the scale of the weather model to client's needs. Do you have it, Ramko?
Yep.
Okay, good. What you can see is normally, look at the large white rectangle. Within that rectangle, you get one temperature, one humidity, one wind speed, one water rainfall. What we built was a much higher resolution model. So now you can see, you can even look at the different qualities of weather across the island of Manhattan. So we use that model. Going to the next one, next slide. It shows you the kind of resolution that you get. And the next slide, page 22, is how we started building flood forecasts for the Brazil in Rio. At the left, we started looking at the weather prediction. And as you look through this whole slide, you can see the bottom left, we start looking at the weather prediction, the rainfall, the topography, a frictionless model, a fluid flow for water, and then the actual flood. So on the next slide, what you see is IBM, the city of Rio built this center, and we put in the software that helps the center recognize the state of the weather, that recognize what needs to be done and what situation. So I'm going to ask you, this is the last slide, ask you to click on this panorama. We should see one more video, which is 2 minutes long.
Click on this Rio de Janeiro, right?
Right. Just click on the image.
Mm-hmm.
Rio de Janeiro, home to more than 6 million people and host of the biggest events in the world in the coming years. While Rio's unique tropical landscape and exponential economic growth make the city the perfect venue for such events, natural disasters always bring with them some hard-to-manage challenges. To prevent such issues, IBM was assigned by the Rio City Hall to create the most sophisticated operations center in the world, managing and integrating data from 32 public agencies and service providers, showing how analytics can change an entire city.
But what if all this data and analytics could be downloaded for free to every tablet and smartphone?
To make the life of Rio citizens much safer and smarter, we've created Rio Right Now, a unique application that streams operations center data in real time. A tool that puts a smarter city into the hands of its citizens.
I forgot, I have two slides.
Yes.
One is how to make a really dumb city from smart data. This is what you don't want to do. First of all, get all of your departments to work on data acquisition using different systems. Then make them compete for the funds. Then measure the leaders on separate measurements, separate metrics. Make it even worse by making political announcements for plans with no idea what the plans will cost, the effect on citizens, or measurement of their impact. Then, of course, you can make sure that the central government, the Oblast cities, all have different systems and unrelated measurements. This is real chaos. And finally, the future city will be completely different. They will be able to use a set of data that can be shared between departments. They will be able to use information which will be posted and made available for others to review, to make businesses out of. We estimate somewhere between 20 and 50% of all the spending in a government is wasted because of this lack of transparency, because of the lack of coordination. We know, for example, in places like New York University, Chicago, Berkeley, they're starting a course, master's course, on a city data professional, somebody who knows how the city works and how to use the data. And once you have this data, there's a raft of opportunities for new businesses to emerge. It's a topic for a separate discussion. With that, let me say, дуже вам дякую, що послухали.
Дякую. Пане Юрію, щиро дякуємо вам від всіх учасників. Дуже сподіваємося, що побачимо вас на наступних заходах в Україні, так що можна буде потиснути вам руку і задати питання персонально. Так що, сподіваюся, в жовтні в нас все вийде, ви приїдете на Smart City конференцію в Києві. Дякую. Спасибі велике. До зустрічі.